Hello, and welcome to my podcast, whatever I choose to call it. I haven't really narrowed down a name yet, but I'm sure by the time this is posted, it will have a name. Maybe I edit it at the end to actually say the official name of the podcast. But basically, this is going to be a faith-based, Jesus-based, gospel-based podcast. I plan to have a whole bunch of different types of sermons, different types of things that I talk about, people in my life, people that are close to God. Just mainly just talking about the gospel, talking about Jesus, talking about our struggle as humans here on earth and in the flesh and things of that nature. So basically, for this first episode, I just want to talk about my goals for whatever this is going to turn out to be. I wanted to run over my testimony and how I became close with God and how I came to know for a fact that He is real and He, with Jesus Christ, the gospel of Jesus Christ, is something that really happened. The death, the resurrection, God in human form, humbled himself. God humbled himself into a human form. So I'm just gonna kind of walk through my testimony, and then I'm gonna walk through my goals for the podcast, and that's gonna be it. I'm gonna post it, and hopefully it goes pretty all right. So my name's Austin. A few of you watching this probably know me, but my whole life I always grew up in church. Went to church with my dad, went to church with my mom playing when I was a little kid, a little less with my mom when I started getting to like higher elementary, middle school age. Pretty much always with my dad until the end of middle school. And then I haven't really gone to church all that much since then. But grew up with God in the house. My grandfather, my mom's dad, career pastor. And so I always kind of like, yeah, Jesus was just like a, hey, duh, he exists to me. And I never really had a chance to encounter him or his glory and like how really real he is and how deep the faith goes until about 2 years ago. I think 2.5 years ago now, because 1 year would have been senior year. Yes, so 2.5 years ago now. Basically, my testimony is I always knew God was real and whatnot and all this Jesus stuff, but around the end of my junior year, going into the final quarter of my junior year, during spring break, I was just alone in my room, just hanging out. Just had my lights on, listening to some sad music, playing Minecraft, just hanging out, doing whatever. Just spring break didn't have much going on, and I just started feeling this great pit in my heart, this great loneliness, and I just started thinking about how grateful I was for my family, and like it kind of came to my mind how temporary everything was. Um, I was thinking about my sister and just how she's my rock. We've been through a lot together, and like even though everyone in my family has always been there for me. Caitlin is my sister, my full sister. That when we're going to dad's, we're going to dad's. When we're going to mom's, we're going to mom's. When things are rough at any place, we have seen each other in our highest forms. And so I was just thinking about my sister, how much I loved her. So I was just thinking some pretty dark thoughts, like just like I don't belong in this, and I don't belong on this earth. Like it's just so pointless. I'm so lonely. I have no one to talk to. I have a great pit in my heart, and I'm not fulfilled. And I also can look back on that now and know that that was the enemy convincing me of this lie that I was alone and that no one loved me and that I didn't deserve to have the people that I did have in my life. But basically, I texted Caitlin almost verbatim and said, "Caitlin, I just want to let you know, like, I love you, and you're my effing rock, and no one on this earth means more to me than you do. And I love you so much." And she said, "Austin, what's going on?" I said, "Nothing." And she FaceTimed me, and I was already like, I wasn't crying before that. I mean, I was sad and whatnot, but as soon as I saw that FaceTime come through, I started crying. I answered it, and I was crying, and she was already. As soon as she saw I was crying, she started crying, and she was like, "Are you okay? Are you going to do anything?" I said, "No, I feel so lonely and I don't know what to do." And she's like, "Well, do you want me to come home?" Because she's in college and she was at her, this was her sophomore, no, her freshman year in college. And she was like, "Well, do you want me to come home?" I said, "Well, when are you supposed to come home next?" She's like, "In like 3 weeks." And I said, "No, you don't have to come home now. Just come home when you're going to come home. I can make it through." She's like, "I don't want you to do anything." I said, "I won't. I just feel really lonely right now." She's like, "Well, you're not alone." And so she comforted me through that, and then we hung up. We said he loved each other, and I shut my PlayStation off, and I was done playing video games and listening to music for the night. But you know, I still had that pit in my heart, and I got on my floor and I started praying to God, and I said, "God, like, I have nothing left to give. Like, I feel like I'm giving a lot, but I'm obviously not, because if I gave everything, then I would feel fulfilled. And so I had a pit in my heart, and it says in the Bible, when you die to Christ, you gain new life. And I never understood that until I was laying on my floor face down, crying into my carpet. And my carpet was wet. Like when I got up, I could feel how wet my carpet was from my tears. And when it says you die to Christ, you find new. When you die, when you sacrifice your flesh, when you crucify your flesh, you find new life in Jesus Christ. And when I was laying on my floor, I felt like I was bleeding out. Like my body got so cold, and I felt like I was being drained, and I was getting weightless, and I was just empty, and I was crying into my carpet. And I told God, I have nothing left to give. I sacrifice it all to you. I give up. I give it to you. And I was still sad. And I can't tell you how the next day or week or 1 month went, but I can tell you the next year. I can tell you the next year and a half, and I can tell you the next 2 years. Soon after that, I started talking to a girl that I had previously talked to, and we got back together, so I no longer felt alone. I had a girlfriend, and I'll get into it deeper, but we had this relationship, and it felt like God had answered my prayer for the first time, and it felt like because He answered my prayer that I was doing something right. But when you read in the Bible, it says, "Ask with your whole heart and believe it will be fulfilled, and He will give it to you," because God is so generous. Even if something's not good for you, and it's just ultimately going to teach you a lesson, He's very gracious, and He gives you what you ask for. And that's something I just learned recently this year, is like, you got to be careful what you ask for, because He might give it to you and you might just screw it up, and you don't want to do that. So um I asked for a partner, someone, and I got it. And I genuinely believe she was from God, even though it ended up being a very toxic relationship, and just so many wrong things happened. I still feel like she was from God, because I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for her, and it wasn't for the huge mistakes I made, and all the things that happened. And so that was my first encounter with God, and asking Him, like, give me something. Like, I give it to you, just show me you're there. And then my next one, actually, surprisingly enough, had to do with her as well. We had dated for about 11 months at this point, and something just felt off the past few weeks, and I was getting back into my word again, and her and I were getting more hostile towards each other, just like in everything, and it just was off. And so I said, God, something's off. I was blind at the time. I couldn't see it was a bad relationship, and we weren't supposed to be together. I was stupid. And so I asked God, I said, please just show me what needs to change, and I'll walk in faith to change it. Like, I'll walk in obedience to change the thing you show me needs to be changed. And when I tell you about, I prayed that for 2 weeks, and then I wasn't waiting for a sign. I was just like, hey, I prayed it, whatever. I'm about to head into school. I had half days, so I'm about to head into school. I'm preparing my stuff in the morning. It's about 11 a.m., and I get a call from her, my ex, and she was berating me, calling me names, being very rude. And I wasn't the perfect boyfriend. I'm not gonna act like that, but she was being very rude, and I was just like, wow, like, this is really out of nowhere. And I didn't try to make her feel like shit for it, but I was like, where's this coming from? She's like, you treat people like shit, and you treat me like shit, and you're not gonna get away with it. Like, I'm drawing the line there. You're a piece of shit. I can't stand you. I was just like, oh. She's like, we're done. I was like, okay. Like, I knew in my heart, like right in that moment, I knew. I was like, okay, that was it. Even though I was wrong in the situation, this was God showing me this was the next step I need to take to show my faith and obedience in Him. And I said, okay, it's broken off. Like, and she was like, no, 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 no. I was like, you want me to fix it? She's like, well, of course I do. I love you. And I was like, I love you too. But like, this is obviously a sign. I told her what I prayed about, and I was like, this is my sign. I said, you were so emotionally out of control. I could only see it as like some sort of divine intervention, like God hardening your heart, like He hardened Pharaoh's heart. Pharaoh hardened his heart 8 times, and then God hardened it the ninth. She was hardening her own heart for so long that then God let her do it, and it led me to breaking up with her, and ultimately leading down the rest of this story. Stay with me. So we broke up, and talked on and off. Honestly, you know how that goes. Young couples, first loves, and things like that. But I eventually found a new girl that I had been I prayed to God. I said, God, just give me something to show me comfort and that there's more out there. And I found this girl, and she was so sweet. And if you guys have watched The Notebook, she was honestly kind of my summer under the trees. But it was a very young and hot but fast burning love. And you know that went away. I just feel like she was a blessing from God. I feel like I just got to give her a mention. But then I planned on going to Ivy Tech for college. I was going to go for some sort of tech degree or whatever, just like a 10-month school. And I was looking for a job to get in. Oh, sorry. Run it back a little bit. I was working at Kroger's until about the middle of June. I just felt this calling from God. I could only explain it like it was just a real like just quit. Just you're never gonna leave this place until you just quit. So I quit Kroger's, and that was very naive and stupid of me looking back on it. But it happened out of such a passion. I could only explain it as coming from God because stay with me. I quit that. I went to go to college, couldn't find another job, so I ended up going to the laborers union, and I was a laborer for a total of 6 months, I think. 6 months. And that's going to lead me to where I am now. But I was a laborer, and I found some work relatively soon, and then I lost that, and then I was alone and just unemployed, hanging out, playing Minecraft every day, not sticking with God, like not getting my scripture every day. And I found my place. I found myself at my dad's visiting one weekend, and I prayed to God. I said, God, just I'm crying during this. I said, I'm alone and I'm bored. Like I have nothing to do. I said, I'm alone all the time and I have nothing to do. I said, God, either help me find work, something to do, or give me a partner, someone to be with. Give me an intimate partner, whether it's a dear friend or an intimate partner. And the next day, so I come back from my dad's to here. And the next day, I get a call from my good friend Gavin's dad, Jeremy. He was a foreman on this job, and he's the part of the reason I joined the laborers union, because he said he could give me a job earlier, but he wasn't able to. But he called me the next day and said, "Hey, you done just sitting around fluffing your nuts?" I go, "Yeah, man. Hey, what's up?" He goes, "Well, you got work?" I go, "No." He's like, "All right, you're coming to work Monday." And after we hung up the phone, I was like, "Oh my goodness! I just prayed the day before to help me, find something. And I have a job now." So I went and worked there for about 4 months. And around a week to 2 weeks before that job ended, I was staying with my sister in Muncie because it was easier. It was an easier commute and all that. And I told her one day before I left for work, I said, "You know what's crazy?" She goes, "What?" I go, I could be texting on the way to work and then my brains end up on the dashboard. It's really dark, but that's exactly what I said. I said, I died doing something I didn't even want to do. And so I prayed to God the next couple nights and said, God, like I feel idle. I feel like I'm in a place where you don't want me to be, even though I'm reading my scripture every morning and I'm praying to you every night and I'm thanking you for all these things I thank you for. I feel like I'm idle and I feel like I'm ready for the next thing. When I tell you, the day after I prayed that prayer, Jeremy, Gavin's dad, the foreman, pulled me aside and said, "Hey, you ever thought about being a carpenter?" I go, I mean, it's like number 3 on my list. I was being for real because I wanted to be an operator, then an electrician, then a carpenter. He was like, "Well, we got to get rid of some guys, and you're bottom of the totem pole." And I was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "But if you go become a carpenter, I might be able to just rehire you on as a carpenter." And I was like, "All right." So he gave me like 2 days notice. I the next morning I went to the carpenter's hall and I signed up and became a carpenter, and I withdrew from the laborers union and all that, and I didn't end up getting hired back on there right away. And he said, "Listen, I can hire you back on anytime, but if you can get on that battery plant." Oh, sorry, I got a call. It interrupted my screen, kind of screwed me up. But he said, my old boss said, "If you can get on that battery plant, go take it. It's a great opportunity. A lot of guys spend a chunk of their career trying to get on a big job like that." And so I said, "Okay." And I text my BA, said, "Hey, if you could get me anywhere on that battery plant, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you, man." I got an email the next day from a company, one of the biggest companies on that job, about, getting hired. And so I worked there for about 5 months. And then, as I felt I was getting stale there, I was in my word every morning, reading it before work started. I was, reading it at lunch, saying my prayers, just really talking to people I got at work, and just like I felt like I was on a good path and moving forward and getting closer with God. But then I felt getting stale, and I was like, God, show me a light. I prayed one night. I said, God, show me a light at the end of the tunnel. I just feel like I'm getting stale, stationary, and I need you to help me keep it fresh so I can keep moving closer to you, God. And amen. Good night. The next day, my boss Eric walks up to me, and I was working with Jason, good old journeyman of mine. He was a real cool guy to work with, but Eric walks up to me. He goes, "Hey, how do you like this carpentry stuff?" I go, "It's cool. Yeah, I like it." He's like, "You want to keep doing it?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to try something new?" I go, "Like what?" He goes, "Steel studs and drywall." I go, "Absolutely, dude." He's like, "How close you live to South Bend?" I go, "Give or take an hour." He's like, "All right, well, we're gonna start offloading people here soon. We're just trying to keep the guys we like around and whatnot. Just keep them working." I said, "Well, thanks. I appreciate it." He's like, "Keep it on the low." So my prayer had been answered. I felt like I was going stale and like everything was getting stale. And I'm about to go work there tomorrow. It is September 4th. Tomorrow is going to be my first day. It's been about a month and a half without work, but I got told about that 2 months, 2.5 months before it even happened. But that was God showing me the light at the end of the tunnel. I had said in my prayer, word for word, verbatim, show me a light at the end of a tunnel. And since I only worked there 5 months, and he showed me halfway through, that was the light at the end of the tunnel for me. So I include that as part of my testimony, because now I'm about to go work at this next battery plant, and it's putting me in a new position. And this time off has brought me closer to God. I've been in my word every day. I've been ruminating on this podcast for months, and this is finally, I bought a mic, I bought a camera, and I bought, studio light and whatnot. And I decided, screw it. Like, this is only going to take however long each, once or twice a week to throw together and upload, and hopefully someone can get something out of it. And of course, not every episode is going to be like this. It's going to be more organized and thought out. This is more of just spur of the moment, and I wanted to get it out there, because if I don't take that first step, when will I? One day or day one. So thank you guys for listening. That's kind of my testimony as far as my life goes now. you know, it's it's a real diluted because it's long, but I wanted to show you guys, like, I gave my life to Jesus 2.5 years ago. I truly gave my life to Jesus 2.5 years ago, crying, feeling like I was bleeding out on my floor. And he's been with me every step of the way. I've fallen more times than I can count. I struggle with lust a lot. I don't struggle with anger as much as I used to. I struggle with understanding. I ask God for wisdom and understanding a lot, and He gives me trials. He makes that harder for me. He gives me things to understand. He gives me challenges to overcome. There's a lot of things I'm going to get into in the next few episodes, really big hard hitters for me in the past couple of years, just as far as things I've learned and whatnot. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening. I'm probably going to be starting some sort of Instagram or something soon. So if you are somehow someone I don't know, or you just found this somewhere, reach out. If you have a testimony, I'd love to share testimonies on here. I want this to be a platform for a lot of people to just kind of come together. Um, I'm no different than you. I'm just a person that screwed up more times than count and just gave it to Jesus. And I pray that you do the same. So thank you for joining me, and good night.